Welcome back to our chilling series exploring the haunted corners of America, where history and horror intertwine in ways that defy explanation. In this sixth episode of Most Haunted Abandoned Places in the U.S., we delve deeper into the shadowy ruins and forgotten structures that stand as silent witnesses to tragedy, despair, and the supernatural. These places are more than just decaying relics. They are portals to another realm, where the echoes of human anguish linger long after the last footsteps have faded. Abandoned places hold a unique kind of terror, one born from isolation, neglect, and the passage of time. They are spaces frozen in moments of abandonment, their walls soaked with memories of lives lived and lost. From crumbling asylums to ghostly towns swallowed by nature, these sites serve as haunting reminders of our impermanence and the fragility of civilization itself. But what makes them truly terrifying is not just their physical decay, it's the stories they carry, the spirits that refuse to leave, and the lingering sense that something unseen still walks their halls. In this episode, we'll journey to some of the most infamous abandoned places across the United States, places steeped in lore and fear, where the past refuses to stay buried. We'll peer into the shadowy depths of deserted factories, explore eerie prisons cloaked in mystery, and tread cautiously through ghost towns teeming with restless spirits. Along the way, we'll hear first-hand accounts from witnesses brave enough to confront the unknown, examine chilling evidence captured by paranormal investigators, and unravel the tragic histories that give rise to these hauntings. So dim the lights, keep your ears sharp, and prepare yourself for a descent into the macabre. As we step into the haunted heart of America's most notorious abandoned places, remember, sometimes, the most terrifying truths lie just beyond the veil, and once you cross it, there's no turning back. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a monument to despair perched atop a hill overlooking Louisville, Kentucky, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium stands as one of the most infamous haunted abandoned places in America, a sprawling, five-story structure that looms over its surroundings like a grim sentinel. Built in 1926, the sanatorium was originally designed to treat tuberculosis, a disease that ravaged populations during the early 20th century. Its remote location and state-of-the-art facilities made it a beacon of hope for patients seeking relief from the agonizing symptoms of consumption. Yet beneath its imposing facade lay a darker reality, one marked by overcrowding, experimental treatments, and an unrelenting tide of death. One of the most harrowing features of Waverly Hills is its infamous body chute, or death tunnel, a narrow passageway used to transport deceased patients from the hospital to waiting hearses below. With thousands of deaths occurring annually at the height of the tuberculosis epidemic, administrators sought to shield living patients from the psychological toll of seeing corpses removed. Instead, bodies were loaded onto a rail system and sent down the tunnel, hidden from view. Today, visitors report hearing the faint sound of wheels creaking along the tracks, accompanied by the sensation of cold drafts rushing upward. Some claim to see shadowy figures pushing gurneys laden with unseen burdens, while others describe feeling an overwhelming sense of dread when standing near the entrance to the tunnel. Another prominent legend tied to Waverly Hills revolves around Room 502, said to be haunted by the spirits of two nurses who met tragic ends. According to local lore, the first nurse, overwhelmed by despair after discovering she was pregnant out of wedlock, leapt to her death from the window of the room. The second reportedly succumbed to illness under mysterious circumstances, though rumors persist that foul play may have been involved. Guests exploring Room 502 frequently report strange occurrences: lights flickering without cause, disembodied footsteps echoing through the space, and the overwhelming scent of antiseptic lingering in the air. Some claim to feel an icy hand brushing against their skin, while others describe seeing apparitions of women dressed in vintage nursing uniforms staring mournfully out of the windows. The sanatorium's fourth floor, once home to isolation wards for terminally ill patients, has also gained a reputation for paranormal activity. Employees tasked with maintaining the area often describe hearing muffled voices and the sound of footsteps echoing through empty hallways, though no one else is present. Objects are known to move inexplicably. Tools vanish only to reappear hours later in entirely different locations. One particularly unnerving incident involved a maintenance worker who swore he saw a young boy playing with marbles in the corner of the room, only for the child to disappear when approached. Theories abound that the boy may have been a victim of illness or accident during the hospital's operational years, forever trapped in the confines of its upper levels. Modern-day investigations into Waverly Hill's supernatural claims have yielded intriguing results. Thermal imaging cameras reveal significant temperature drops in specific areas, including the body chute and room 502. Electromagnetic field (EMF) meters register unusual spikes, particularly near antique medical equipment believed to have been used in experimental procedures. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from audio recordings, which capture disembodied voices uttering fragmented sentences like, "Help me," and "Don't let go." Despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted allure, Waverly Hills continues to draw thrill-seekers and history buffs alike. For those brave enough to tour the facility, the opportunity to encounter its spectral inhabitants adds an element of excitement and trepidation. Whether you're drawn by the allure of its architectural grandeur or the weight of its tragic legacy, Waverly Hills promises an unforgettable experience where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the echoes of yesterday linger just beyond reach. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, madness made manifest, nestled in the rolling hills of Weston, West Virginia. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum stands as a haunting monument to the darkest chapters of American psychiatric care. A sprawling, Gothic-style complex that sprawls across 242,000 square feet, making it one of the largest hand-cut stone buildings in the world. Originally constructed in 1858, the asylum was intended to provide humane treatment for individuals suffering from mental illnesses. However, as overcrowding and funding shortages took their toll, the institution descended into chaos, becoming a place where cruelty and neglect reigned supreme. Over its 130-year operational history, thousands of patients passed through its doors, many never to leave alive. One of the most pervasive legends tied to Trans-Allegheny involves the ghost of Ruth, a young woman committed to the asylum in the early 20th century. Historical records indicate that Ruth suffered from severe depression following the loss of her family in a house fire. Institutionalized against her will, she endured years of electroshock therapy and solitary confinement before taking her own life. Visitors exploring the asylum's East Wing report hearing faint sobbing emanating from empty cells, accompanied by the sound of chains rattling. Some claim to see a pale figure sitting motionless in the corner of darkened rooms, her face obscured by shadows. Others describe feeling an oppressive weight pressing down on them, as though Ruth's grief lingers in the air. Another prominent figure in the asylum's haunted lore is believed to be Jacob, a former groundskeeper who worked at the facility during its final years. Paranormal investigators exploring the property have captured EVP recordings suggesting the presence of a male entity whispering phrases like, "Get out," and "Leave me alone." Witnesses described seeing a shadowy figure resembling Jacob pacing anxiously near windows, clutching what appears to be a lantern before vanishing without a trace. Some speculate that Jacob remains tethered to the asylum due to guilt over witnessing atrocities but being powerless to stop them. The asylum's basement, once used for storage and morgue operations, has also gained a reputation for paranormal activity. Employees tasked with cleaning the area often describe hearing muffled voices and the sound of footsteps echoing through the cavernous space, though no one else is present. Objects are known to move inexplicably. Tools vanish only to reappear hours later in entirely different locations. One particularly unnerving incident involved a tour guide who swore she felt cold metal cuffs snap around her wrists, pulling her backward toward the darkness before releasing her abruptly. Theories abound that the basement harbors residual energy from countless autopsies and experiments conducted in secret. Despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted allure, Trans-Allegheny continues to draw thrill-seekers and history buffs alike. For those brave enough to tour the facility, the opportunity to encounter its spectral inhabitants adds an element of excitement and trepidation. Whether you're drawn by the allure of its architectural grandeur or the weight of its tragic legacy, Trans-Allegheny promises an unforgettable experience where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the echoes of yesterday linger just beyond reach. Eastern State Penitentiary. Shadows of solitary confinement. Located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Eastern State Penitentiary stands as a chilling reminder of America's penal reform movement, a fortress-like structure that once housed some of the nation's most notorious criminals. Opened in 1829, the prison pioneered the concept of solitary confinement, believing it would encourage penance and rehabilitation. However, the harsh conditions and sensory deprivation drove many inmates to madness, creating an environment ripe for tragedy and despair. By the time it closed in 1971, Eastern State had become synonymous with suffering, earning its nickname, the world's first true penitentiary. Amid widespread controversy, one of the most enduring legends tied to Eastern State involves Cell Block 12, said to be haunted by the spirit of a former inmate named Leo. Historical accounts suggest that Leo was subjected to prolonged isolation as punishment for attempting to escape multiple times. His erratic behavior eventually led to his death under mysterious circumstances. Visitors exploring the cell block report hearing faint whispers emanating from empty cells, accompanied by the sound of chains rattling. Some claim to see a gaunt figure pacing anxiously in the corner of darkened rooms, his face obscured by shadows. Others describe feeling an icy draft pass through them, as though Leo's unrest lingers in the air. Another prominent figure in the prison's haunted lore is believed to be Al Capone, the infamous gangster who served time at Eastern State in the late 1920s. Paranormal investigators exploring the property have captured EVP recordings suggesting the presence of a male entity whispering phrases like, "Protect me," and "They're coming." Witnesses describe seeing a well-dressed figure walking briskly down corridors, his silhouette illuminated by moonlight before vanishing without explanation. Some speculate that Capone remains tethered to the prison due to guilt over his crimes, while others believe his spirit seeks refuge from vengeful forces. The prison's solitary confinement cells, located deep within the bowels of the facility, have also gained a reputation for paranormal activity. Employees tasked with maintaining the area often describe hearing muffled screams and the sound of footsteps echoing through the cavernous space, though no one else is present. Objects are known to move inexplicably. Tools vanish only to reappear hours later in entirely different locations. One particularly unnerving incident involved a volunteer who swore he saw a group of shadowy figures huddled together in the corner of the room, their faces gaunt and hollow. Theories abound that the cells harbor residual energy from countless acts of violence and despair inflicted upon their vulnerable occupants. Modern-day investigations into Eastern State's supernatural claims have yielded intriguing results. Thermal imaging cameras reveal significant temperature drops in specific areas, including the solitary confinement cells and cell block 12. Electromagnetic field (EMF) meters register unusual spikes, particularly near antique locks and restraints believed to have been used in punitive measures. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from audio recordings, which capture disembodied voices uttering fragmented sentences like, "Help us," and "We're still here." Despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted allure, Eastern State continues to draw thrill-seekers and historians alike. For those brave enough to tour the facility, the opportunity to encounter its spectral inhabitants adds an element of excitement and trepidation. Whether you're drawn by the allure of its architectural decay or the weight of its tragic legacy, Eastern State promises an unforgettable experience where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the echoes of yesterday linger just beyond reach. Bodie Ghost Town, echoes of the Wild West nestled in the arid expanse of California's Sierra Nevada mountains. Bodie Ghost Town stands as a haunting relic of the Wild West. A once thriving mining community that now lies frozen in time, abandoned to the elements. Established in 1859 following the discovery of gold, Bodie quickly grew into a bustling town of saloons, brothels, and opium dens, earning a reputation as one of the wildest frontier settlements in American history. At its peak, the population swelled to over 10,000 residents. But by the early 20th century, the mines dried up, and the town was left to decay. Today, Bodie is preserved as a state historic park, its weathered buildings and dusty streets serving as a stark reminder of the boom and bust cycle that defined so many Western communities. One of the most pervasive legends tied to Bodie involves the curse of the town itself. According to local lore, anyone who removes artifacts from Bodie, be it a nail, bottle, or piece of wood, is doomed to misfortune. Letters sent to the park rangers recount tales of broken marriages, financial ruin, and even unexplained deaths among those who dared to take souvenirs. Many return the items, claiming that their luck improved immediately afterward. Visitors exploring the town report hearing faint whispers carried by the wind, accompanied by the sensation of being watched. Some claim to see shadowy figures moving behind boarded-up windows, while others describe feeling an oppressive weight pressing down on them, as though the town resents their presence. Another prominent figure in Bodie's haunted lore is believed to be Evelyn, a young woman who ran a boarding house during the town's heyday. Historical accounts suggest that Evelyn fell victim to a jealous lover, who set fire to her establishment in a fit of rage. Her charred remains were discovered in the rubble, and her spirit is said to haunt the ruins. Guests exploring the site report hearing faint cries emanating from the ashes, accompanied by the smell of smoke and burning wood. Some claim to see a translucent figure crouched in the corner of darkened rooms, her wide eyes filled with terror. Others describe feeling an icy draft pass through them, as though Evelyn's trauma lingers in the air. The town's cemetery, perched on a hill overlooking the ruins, has also gained a reputation for paranormal activity. Visitors walking among the weathered headstones often feel an inexplicable sense of dread, as though unseen eyes are watching their every move. Shadows flit across peripheral vision, disappearing when directly observed. Some claim to hear disembodied voices calling out names unfamiliar to modern ears, believed to be the voices of miners and settlers buried without proper markers. Others report seeing apparitions of men and women in period clothing, their faces gaunt and weary, standing silently amidst the graves. Modern-day investigations into Bodie's supernatural claims have yielded intriguing results. Thermal imaging cameras reveal significant temperature drops in specific areas, including the cemetery and the burned-out boarding house. Electromagnetic field (EMF) meters register unusual spikes, particularly near rusted mining equipment believed to have been used in dangerous operations. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from audio recordings, which capture disembodied voices uttering fragmented sentences like, "Stay away," and "Leave us." Despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted allure, Bodie continues to draw tourists and paranormal enthusiasts alike. For those brave enough to explore the ruins, the opportunity to encounter its spectral inhabitants adds an element of excitement and trepidation. Whether you're drawn by the allure of its historical significance or the weight of its tragic legacy, Bodie promises an unforgettable experience where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the echoes of yesterday linger just beyond reach. Penhurst Asylum, Shadows of Abuse and Neglect, located in Spring City, Pennsylvania. Penhurst Asylum stands as a grim reminder of one of the darkest periods in American institutional history, a sprawling campus that once housed individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Established in 1908, Penhurst initially aimed to provide care and rehabilitation for its residents. However, as overcrowding worsened and funding dwindled, the facility devolved into a nightmarish environment where abuse, neglect, and systemic corruption ran rampant. By the time it closed in 1987 following a landmark court ruling, thousands of patients had endured unimaginable horrors within its decaying walls, leaving behind scars both physical and spiritual. One of the most enduring legends tied to Penhurst involves the ghost of Sarah, a young girl committed to the asylum at the age of 6. Historical accounts suggest that Sarah suffered from severe autism and was subjected to brutal treatments, including forced restraint and isolation. Her small body bore the marks of repeated beatings, and she eventually succumbed to pneumonia exacerbated by malnutrition. Visitors exploring the dormitories report hearing faint cries echoing through the halls, accompanied by the sound of dragging footsteps. Some claim to see a translucent figure crouching in the corner of darkened rooms, her wide eyes filled with terror. Others describe feeling an icy draft pass through them, as though Sarah's spirit lingers, unable to find peace. Another prominent figure in Penhurst's haunted lore is believed to be Dr. John E. Smith, a controversial administrator who oversaw the facility during its most chaotic years. Paranormal investigators exploring the property have captured EVP recordings suggesting the presence of a male entity whispering phrases like, "Control them," and "They deserve it." Witnesses describe seeing a stern figure clad in a white coat walking briskly down corridors. The asylum's basement, once used for storage and punishment cells, has also gained a reputation for paranormal activity. Employees tasked with maintaining the area often describe hearing muffled screams and the sound of chains rattling, though no one else is present. Objects are known to move inexplicably. Tools vanish only to reappear hours later in entirely different locations. One particularly unnerving incident involved a volunteer who swore he saw a group of shadowy figures huddled together in the corner of the room, their faces gaunt and hollow. Theories abound that the basement harbors residual energy from countless acts of violence and despair inflicted upon its vulnerable residents. Modern-day investigations into Penhist's supernatural claims have yielded intriguing results. Thermal imaging cameras reveal significant temperature drops in specific areas, including the dormitories and the basement. Electromagnetic field (EMF) meters register unusual spikes, particularly near antique medical equipment believed to have been used in unethical experiments. Perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from audio recordings, which capture disembodied voices uttering fragmented sentences like, "Help us," and "We're still here." Despite, or perhaps because of, its haunted allure, Penhist continues to draw thrill-seekers and advocates for disability rights alike. For those brave enough to tour the facility, the opportunity to encounter its spectral inhabitants adds an element of excitement and trepidation. Whether you're drawn by the allure of its architectural decay or the weight of its tragic legacy, Penhist promises an unforgettable experience where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the echoes of yesterday linger just beyond reach. Patterns across haunted abandoned places, themes of suffering and resilience as we traverse the haunted landscapes of America's most notorious abandoned places. From the opulent halls of Waverly Hills to the somber wards of Penhist Asylum, striking similarities emerge that transcend individual locations and histories. These patterns are not merely coincidental but reflect universal themes of human emotion, unresolved trauma, and the enduring power of memory. From the wailing wards of tuberculosis sanatoriums to the shadowed basements of psychiatric institutions, these sites share a commonality that binds them together in a spectral sisterhood of sorrow and suspense. One recurring motif is the concept of unfinished business. Whether it's the victims of unethical experiments or the betrayed trust of patients subjected to inhumane treatments, these spirits seem tethered to the earthly realm by grievances left unaddressed. Their presence manifests as restless energy, often communicated through auditory phenomena, cries, whispers, or disembodied voices, that serve as pleas for acknowledgement or closure. This theme resonates across cultures and belief systems, reflecting humanity's innate need to resolve conflict and seek peace, even in death. Another shared characteristic is the role of architecture in amplifying paranormal activity. Historic abandoned places, with their labyrinthine corridors, thick walls, and hidden alcoves, create environments conducive to isolating individuals and heightening fear. These structural elements act as metaphors for the psychological barriers erected by those who suffered within their confines, trapping emotions such as anger, despair, and regret. It's no coincidence that many reported hauntings occur in spaces imbued with emotional significance: operating rooms where surgeries went awry, basements where bodies were stored, or wards where patients met tragic ends. Lighting and sensory manipulation also feature prominently in these narratives. Flickering lights, sudden temperature drops, and inexplicable odors are staples of ghostly encounters, designed to disorient and unsettle. Such phenomena strip away the comfort of familiarity, forcing guests to confront the unknown. The use of mirrors, a recurring element in stories from various haunted hospitals, adds another layer of psychological tension, as reflections distort perception and blur the boundary between self and other. This interplay of light and shadow becomes a tool wielded by unseen forces, creating moments of visceral terror that linger long after the initial shock subsides. Finally, the prevalence of historical context cannot be overstated. Each abandoned place's haunting is deeply rooted in its unique past, shaped by the socio-cultural milieu of its time. The brutal practices embedded in the DNA of older establishments contrast sharply with the glamorous yet tragic lives immortalized in urban legends. Yet both narratives tap into broader archetypes of ambition, betrayal, and mortality, ensuring their resonance with audiences regardless of personal experience. By drawing on these universal motifs, these haunted places transform from mere buildings into living repositories of collective memory, inviting us to peer into the abyss of our shared humanity. Thus, while each establishment boasts its own distinct flavor of fright, the underlying threads connecting them reveal a tapestry rich with meaning. These patterns remind us that the supernatural is not so much about the entities themselves but the stories they tell, the echoes of lives interrupted, passions extinguished, and truths obscured. As we continue to explore these haunted locales, we find ourselves grappling not only with the specters of the past but with the timeless questions they raise about life, death, and everything in between. As we bring this chilling journey through America's most haunted abandoned places to a close, one thing becomes abundantly clear: the spirits of the past refuse to be silenced. Each creaking floorboard, each whispered name, and each fleeting shadow serves as a testament to lives lived, lost, and lingering in the spaces we dare to call haunted. These stories are more than mere campfire tales. They are fragments of history, stitched together by human emotion, tragedy, and the relentless passage of time. They remind us that the line between the living and the dead is far thinner than we might believe, and that sometimes, the most terrifying truths lie just beyond the veil. But why stop here? If these accounts have stirred something within you, a spark of curiosity, a shiver of excitement, I urge you to take the next step. Visit one of America's haunted abandoned places yourself. Walk the same halls where spirits are said to roam, stand in the rooms where history's echoes reverberate, and let the unknown brush against your senses. Whether you're a skeptic seeking proof or a believer eager to commune with the other side, these forsaken institutions offer an unparalleled opportunity to confront the mysteries that lie just beyond comprehension. There's nothing quite like experiencing the weight of decades-old despair firsthand, feeling the chill of a presence that defies explanation, or hearing the faint strains of voices from another time. And when you return, share your story. Did you feel the icy touch of a ghostly hand? Hear the faint tap of footsteps in an empty corridor? Or perhaps nothing happened at all, but isn't that silence just as intriguing? Your experiences add to the rich tapestry of lore surrounding these haunted places, ensuring their legacies endure for generations to come. Share your findings with fellow enthusiasts, document your journey, and keep the conversation alive. After all, every whisper contributes to the symphony of the supernatural. Until then, keep your lanterns lit and your courage steady. The spirits are waiting.